We have this encounter that we hear today between Jesus and this deaf man. He was physically deaf and mute. You could say that his ears and his mouth were closed up. And he was, make no mistake, he was physically healed. But even with being physically healed, in the scriptures, always when we have these accounts of deafness and being mute, it always has another layer to it. There's always something deeper that's going on. You could say this man had other things in him that needed to be opened up. There were things that were closed in him. And so maybe before we even look at this encounter, I just want to pose a question for all of us. As you come here today, as you sit there, as I stand here, what is going on in you on a deeper level? Like what might I need to be opened up inside of me? Like what interiorly in me isn't working right? And because, and this doesn't come to a surprise to any of us, because life is the way it is and things happen, and because of sin, like there are things in us that aren't working right. We all know it. Like my physical ears might be fine, there might be nothing wrong with my tongue, but maybe on a deeper level, on the level of the mind, maybe with anxiousness or fear or something that I've been longing for to have kind of rooted out of me, or maybe it's on the level of the heart, and it's like I'm emotionally cut off, or there's something emotionally wrong. I'm cut off from myself, or I'm cut off from God. I'm cut off from an important relationship in my life. What in you might need to be opened this morning? Because we see this man, he was opened up. He had this encounter. He was reconnected. And it can be the case for us. But we see two things happen for this man. The process, if you will, it was two-pronged. The need to be taken away from the crowd. And then secondly, the need to receive a very particular treatment. So first, the need to be taken away from the crowd. That's what the encounter starts with. Jesus took the man off by himself away from the crowd, the text says. That's the first thing that's needed. To take the man away privately, away from everybody else, away from the busy crowd, the noise of the crowd. I can't help, I was thinking, this week that the encounter, the deaf man came out of the Decapolis, which just means it's the area or region of 10 cities clustered together there outside of the Sea of Galilee. Can't help but think of like the cluster of the 10 cities of like the modern suburb. I counted the 9 other cities, or towns, if you will, around Clarendon Hills, Hinsdale, and Westmont, and Downers Grove, and Burr Ridge, and Western Springs. Just this cluster of 10. So we know that Decapolis was this region of cluster of 10 towns. And it was also very, very secular. It was very difficult to practice one's faith or be religious. And the first 22 years of my life was rural life. I grew up on the farm, as you know. It wasn't until the last 15 years that I've been in the suburbs, or 2 of the years was even in the cities. Take it from me, it's different. It's more noisy. There's a greater tendency for us to prioritize material possessions, to prioritize comfort. It's kind of like the idea of the origins of suburbs. But there's a greater tendency for us to prioritize material possessions above spiritual things, the spiritual realm. There's a greater pressure. It's busier. It's faster. Don't hear what I'm not saying. My intent up here is not to bash the suburbs, okay? I'm not suggesting we all go out and build houses on the prairies. But can we see that this suburban or city living does impact us on living at a deeper level. Pope Benedict, speaking into this on the city noise and even on media, he says this: technical progress, especially in the area of transport and communications, has made human life more comfortable, but also more keyed up, at times even frenetic. Frenetic, right? It's that pace that's so wild, it even seems uncontrollable. He goes on and says, suburban life is almost always noisy. Silence is rarely found in them because there's always background noise, in some areas even at night. And then he speaks on the media and social media recently. He says, in recent decades, moreover, the development of the media risks predominating over reality. Unbeknownst to them, people are increasingly becoming immersed in a virtual dimension because of the audio-visual messages that accompany their life from morning to night. He says what's needed is withdrawing into silence and solitude. Human beings, so to speak, expose themselves to the reality of their own nakedness, the void within, he says, or that spot in us that's closed up, in order to experience instead fullness, the presence of God, which is the most real reality that exists. The Lord calls each one of us daily to leave the crowd and to encounter the living God. Our souls need it. We crave it. It's the first crucial step in order to hear again, in order for us to open up the things that need to be opened up. Is anybody feeling frenetic or you're keyed up? We've got to exit the crowd. The second step we see is that there's a need for a very particular treatment. After Jesus takes the man away from the crowd, he does two things we see. He places his fingers in the man's ears, and then he spits and touches the man's tongue. That's weird, right? Especially when you think that Jesus didn't have to do that. The people who brought the man to him even said, just lay your hands on him. But, and of course, many times he could have healed him by laying his hands on. In fact, he could have healed the man by just saying, be healed. He did that countless times throughout the scriptures. And so the whole fingers in the ear and touching the tongue, it was not Jesus' ordinary way of healing. As far as we know, he didn't heal anybody else that way. But he did heal this guy that way. Can you see how personal it is? How intimate it is? It's almost as if it's tailored for him. Jesus is almost using a sign language for this guy. The guy couldn't hear him, so Jesus is using a sign language to say, I know what hurts. I know what's needed. I know where you're closed up. So let me give you this very particular treatment that I've tailored for you. A beautiful illustration, I think, is this. I love the movie A Beautiful Mind. It's based on a true story of the Nobel Prize winner, John Nash, played by Russell Crowe. And in there, so John Nash he's a genius. And at one point, this bright mind, he goes to Princeton and he's just solving these math problems and he's just blowing everybody out of the water. His professors, his classmates, he's just this unbelievable mind and genius. But you come to find out that he's sick. He's really sick. He suffers from schizophrenia. That is, he's got a problem differentiating between reality and what's not real. And as the movie goes on, John Nash, as he gets sicker and sicker, he's receiving shock therapy. He's taken medicine. And then at a point of desperation, he's at a point of desperation, his wife is at a point of desperation. They just had a little baby, and it's coming off right off the scene of which, because of he's having struggle figuring out what's real or not, his baby, or he almost accidentally killed the baby. And at that point, he's up in the stairs, he's sitting on the edge of his bed, and his wife comes into the room, and she stands at the doorway. Without saying a word, she just comes and kneels right before him at the bed. And she says, you want to know what's real, John? And she takes her hand and puts it on her cheek. And as soon as he does it, this defeated body, he just nods his head and just this slight smile. She says, this is real. And she takes his hand and places it on her cheek and says, this is real. And then moves his hand on his chest, or her chest, and says, this is real. And she says, maybe the part that knows the waking from the dream, maybe it isn't in the mind, but maybe it's here. She sees her husband sick, and she so badly wants for him to be healed and to kind of have the things in him that are closed up to be opened up. See, when you and I have things in us that are closed up, that need to be opened up, very often it needs to receive a very particular treatment, something that's tailored for you, because he knows what's wrong. He knows the cause of the reason why it's wrong. Like, he knows what happened, and he knows what's there, and he wants to give you a very particular treatment, to touch it, to even caress it, and to say that, like, be open, Ephatha, be open. Are you frenetic? Do you feel frenetic? Do you feel keyed up? What's in you that's closed up, that you long to be set free and to be opened? Do you know that an encounter with Jesus can bring it and can give it, because he knows exactly, and he's real. He's alive. He went to the cross to die for our sins, and he lives in you and me. Can we turn to him? Can we turn to him even now? Can we turn to him when we receive him in the Eucharist? Some of us are here, I know it. I know it because I can slip in the spot. We're here and we feel so darn frenetic and keyed up, and we're so closed up. And he just wants to say, let me show you what's real, and let me open you up. And so it's important for us to seek those times out where we can be pulled away from the crowd to receive that very particular treatment that he's got tailored. That's why we run things like the Rescue Project here, which begins here in 10 days. We run it. One of the reasons why we run it is because we believe that one can have a life-changing encounter through the Rescue Project. Maybe just closely with this point. Note that the man did not just discover Jesus, but a group of people, it says, like some people brought the man by the hand, the deaf man and the mute man to Jesus. And they begged him, Lord, our buddy, our friend, our family member, he's closed up. Please heal him. Increasingly for us at Notre Dame, we need to increasingly lean in to the missionary mandate in which every baptized believer has. And that is to bring people to him whose life, maybe sometimes even taking them by the hand. So for us this week, to allow Jesus to open you up, and it begins with leaving the crowd, and then he can provide a very particular treatment for you.